So let me just start off by having a quick look at the agenda, what we're trying to cover today's session. So here we go. So we're going to look at some of the base configuration needed to use the service module. Then we'll talk about the various concepts of the transactions and master data that's available in service, including equipment cards, contracts, and service calls. And then, we're going to be looking at three different interfaces. Firstly, we'll look at the standard SAP Business One client. We'll also have a look at the web client to see what functionality that offers around service. And then finally, we're going to look at the Business One service app, the mobile service app for, more your employees in the field doing service work. So let's maybe, before we even get into the system, let's just talk a little bit about what the service module is in Business One applicable to. So if you are a company that provides support services or you receive support from your suppliers, then you can manage all related activities for those services, repairs and maintenance and such within the service module. So the examples of these are things like interaction between your service rep and your customer or supplier, recording information around service contracts, product and serial number information, recording customer complaints and inquiries. You can also monitor and manage those activities, and there are a bunch of standard reports and custom reports that assist the managers and support staff in their day-to-day activities. So there's the potential to optimize, your sales and service departments and generate ongoing revenue and also relationships. You can, manage your service operations, contract management, planning of the service tasks, and tracking of those customer interactions. Also, you can manage a knowledge base of solutions. So for issues that have been raised by customers, if they're recurring issues, you can create that as a knowledge base, and then the system can even come to you and make a recommendation when you log an issue based on past use of that particular knowledge base entry. So let's, further to do, let's get into the system. So start with, we'll look at the Business One interface. And so start with, we'll look at some of the setup, right? So the first thing is the concept of the customer equipment card. So every time you want to track a piece of equipment that you're providing service for, you need to create an equipment card for it. So then there's a history against it, and you can track all the activities that have happened on it. So there is a way of automatically creating that, and this only works for items that are serialized. So if an item is serial tracked, you've got an option to say automatically create an equipment card when the item is sold. So that's under administration, system initialization, and general settings. Under there, in the inventory tab and items tab, there is this checkbox that says auto create customer equipment card. So if that's turned on, if you ever sell a serialized item, the system will automatically generate that equipment card for it. So that's the first setup you need to do. The second setup is under administration, setup, and contract templates. Now, this is relevant if you do have some form of warranty for the equipment that you're selling, or you might have the standard contracts that you offer customers that you want to then create a contract from. So, so this is a template that says this, what sort of standard offerings you have, and then you can pull one of those and then amend that as necessary. So if you look at, for example, our gold contract, which, and then if you can see, the contract type can be based on serial number. So this will, work in tandem with the custom equipment card. But you can also have contracts just directly based on a customer or based on an item group. So these wouldn't be necessarily linked to a serial number. These just be general contracts relating to an item or an item group or a customer. Then you have the definition of how quick you need to respond to a ticket that's been logged. So, we can set up the response time, whether it's a number of days or hours. In here, we've said 1 hour response time, and we're saying that the resolution time is 2 days. We can also define the renewal period. So if you want to have a reminder when this contract is created, if you want to have a reminder that says, remind the user within X number of days of expiry that contract is expiring, then you can also set that up. Then furthermore, you decide what the coverage is, so what days of the week and what duration is covered for this response time and the resolution time. So, if someone, for example, logs the ticket out of hours, well, then, the clock starts ticking on the next working day. And then you can also specify what's covered in this particular contract. You got some general remarks and attachments. So that's the setup on the contracts. The next thing is the setup on the item master data. So when you set up new products, and if they are serialized items, which let's look at one. So this item is a serialized item, and we've assigned a warranty template to it. All right, so what then happens is when you ever sell this item, it will automatically create a warranty contract or service contract based on the linked template. So let's just quickly look at how that would work. So if I go in, and I'm just going to directly do an invoice, I won't go through that whole process of order to cash. I just want to show that if you do create an invoice for a serialized item, and if that serialized item has also got a warranty template, then we will see what the system behavior is on that basis. So let's add that invoice, and as this is a serialized item, it is asking me what the serial number is. I will select the serial number in question. So there's that one, 350, and I will add that. So as soon as I've done that, in the background, the system's generated an equipment card for this particular serialized item. So let's jump into the service area under service and equipment card. So the equipment card could be both ways. It could be sales related or purchasing. So it is, if you've bought something and you want to track that, you can also store that information. We're looking at it on the sales side. So let's look at that one that we just sold. So it's recorded the serial number, the item, the customer, and if you go into, and it's also recorded the address. If there are any service calls relating to this equipment card, I mean, we've just sold this, so there won't be any, but if there were any, you would see those. The service contract, so you see that automatically, it's created a service contract. It's based on that gold warranty, which is 24 months. And you can see the start date and the end date of that particular template. I can drill into it and see the contract, which we'll do in a bit. We can also see the sales status. It's recorded, who it was sold to and which invoice number it was on. History of transactions. If the serial number was indeed, purchased and sold through SAP Business One, then you'll see all those histories. Even if there was, returns and, inbound transactions, outbound transactions, you'll see all of that. And you can also make some attachments here. So as I said earlier, you can also manually create one. So if it is this equipment that you never sold, you're just a service agent, and you want to track these equipment each time you get a new piece of equipment, you just come in here and you create the equipment card, and then you can track that and have all the history relating to it. So let's just jump into the service contract screen. Actually, what I might do is let's look at a different equipment card, one where we've got some service history as well. So here's one where we've actually got 3 service tickets we've done as well for various issues. So we can see the type of problems this particular piece of equipment's been having, how frequently we're getting service calls, and you can also see whether that job has been closed or it's still open. Then if we look at the service contracts, and if I drill into that, we'll see that's a warranty template. It's against that customer. There's the response time and the resolution times related to it. You can see that the service contract is valid because it's expiring in 2024. The status is approved. I mean, we can terminate it or put it on hold if there were some issues around it. And if I did have this checked, then I can also say, remind me when it requires renewal. We can see the items on this contract. So if in a single transaction you had multiple serialized items, then they all were linked to the same contract type or template type, then they would all go into the same service contract. We can see the coverage that came through. I mean, I can amend this. I can say, well, for this particular piece contract, I have different rules. See the attachments. I can make some additional attachments here. You've got the service calls. So again, it's got a sort of 3-way linking happening. We can see on the equipment card, we can see the contracts and the service calls. On the contract, you can also see the service calls and the items, and the thing that sort of links it all together is obviously the service call that gets raised when we need to do some work on that equipment. One other thing to point out here is, as we saw earlier, those contracts can be of different types. They can be a warranty contract or a regular contract. They can be based on serial numbers, business partners, or item groups. So you might just have a general recurring sort of contract to go do some repairs or maintenance, not specifically to an item. It may be something to do with a facility. What you could do then is you could link recurring transactions. So you could create a recurring either a sales order or even a invoice, and say that I've got a recurring template that every 2 months I'm going to bill this particular customer X dollars, and then you can use the standard recurring templates functionality to bill the customer, and then separately use the service calls to do the actual work. Okay, so let's now look at how to create a new service call, and all the different things you can do within that. So we've got our serialized item here, the one that we just sold, and let's say we've got a problem with that. So we'll go into service call, and of course I can go pick a customer, and then once I've picked the customer, the list of equipment cards will be filtered for that customer only, or I could just go and type in the serial number. If I knew the serial number, I could just go straight type it in. And I've got it in the wrong field. It's the serial number, not the manufacturer's serial number. And basically then it picks up all the details relating to that particular serial number. It recognized that it was sold to that customer and all the other bits and pieces. It's also recognized that there's a valid contract. This is under warranty. And based on the time we entered the transaction, it's also specifying by when we need to do a response and by when we need to do a resolution. Those are based on the configurations. So we can now look at some of the other things that we can do. So firstly, you can have various statuses on that particular service call. default ones are open, closed, and pending, but you can go in and create additional statuses that are relevant to you. These here, the origin of the service call, again, these are all drop downs. You can sort of say how you got informed of the issue. The problem type, again, this is a list that you can create. So, I'm dealing with printers. So let's say there was an issue in the software and, there's a software bug, or maybe we need to do a firmware upgrade. And then there's a third way of categorizing this. Again, it's a drop-down list, and I've got, either we're going to go on site or we're going to do this remotely. And let's say it's on site and firmware upgrade needed, printer restarting automatically. Let's say that's the issue description. We've got the information in relation to the customer. We can put those. Let's just add this first. Oh, I don't have a status. Let's put that to open. We can put in the address details here. General remarks, if we want to put more information. So if we've spoken to the customer, they've given us a bunch of details about it, what else is wrong with it, or what other problems they're having, we can put those in. We've got this tab here, activities. So these is Business One activities. So you may have then had subsequent conversations with the customer about the ticket, so you can go in and create a new activity. Let's say we made a phone call and it's general, type general, and let's say service, and customer is asking for urgent feedback, let's say. So we just had a discussion, and they're keen to get some quick resolutions, so we put that in as the activity. So that gets tracked against the service call. So the solutions, so this is where the solution knowledge base comes into play. So if you had a knowledge base of various solutions, and if you look at the knowledge base screen, the way it works is for specific items, you can have the solution, the symptom, and further descriptions on what the potential issue is. And so you can maintain a list of these by product code, and those knowledge base can also have various statuses. You might start off as internal, and then it goes into a review stage, and then once it's sort of published, then it's available to be assigned to various calls. So what then happens is when you're doing a service call, you can go in and go, well, let's recommend what could be potential fixes, and this just goes in and finds other service calls for the same item and picks up what service knowledge base solutions were used, and you can go in and select one, or you can go in and find from the solutions knowledge base another one and assign that to the call. So you will not be able to close a service call unless you either put a recommended solution, which I can do through here, or the other thing you can do is you can type in a resolution, right? Without those two things, you cannot close the service call. Now, when you are going out on the field, then in the app, you'll be able to also enter in a resolution or select a solution. So those two things are prerequisites to closing a service call. Let's move to the next tab here, which is the related documents. So in here, you can create any sort of sales or purchasing transaction that may be relevant. So you may, this item may be not under warranty, or it may be under warranty, but the issue that we're facing is not, it's maybe damaged due to irresponsible use of equipment, nothing to do with a warranty claim. So you can go in and here you can create any sales or purchasing related transactions. So you may even need to purchase some parts. So you can sort of say, I need to do a purchase order, or you can say, well, actually, I'm going to give the customer a quote. So we can go in, or if we know that the customer is just going to place an order, let's just do that. You know, we're going to do a sales order for this particular call, and let's say we know that they need, let's say, it's a new hard disk required. So we put that in as the order, and we enter that. So what now happens is this particular order is now linked to the service call, and we can see it here. We can see the part that was ordered, and you can see there's various other types of transactions. So you could do a full sort of cycle by raising a service call. Then perhaps you might even have a return of that piece of equipment. So you might do a return request, convert that into a return, work on it, and then once it's been fixed, you may then convert that return back into a delivery. So these are all standard sort of SAP Business One transactions that can be linked back into a service call. Okay, so you keep working on it. You can you know, enter remarks in here. You can enter activities as you call and speak to the customer. Select resolutions, add more documents. Maybe you transferred some equipment, or you purchase some other equipment, and all of those things you can track here. Also note this service call, it can be on the purchasing side as well. So if you've got a warranty claim against your supplier, you can also track that in here as well. All right, so now the history will just show you all the changes that have been made, who made them, you know, when they were made. So it's full track of that. And then we come to the scheduling. Now this is quite important for the app. If you're wanting to use the app, then the scheduling is what is used to assign the times to the service tech. So there's a few things you need to set up around this. So firstly, if you've got if you don't find the scheduling tab in your version of SAP Business One, it's probably because you haven't turned on multiple scheduling. And multiple scheduling is a prerequisite to using the mobile app and scheduling the calls. So, and it's a one-way setting. So if your system's already been set up for, you know, single scheduling, do not just turn it on in your live system without understanding the ramifications, because you may have reports, you may have layouts that work off that. And if you just change the setting, then, you know, those things will stop working. But under system initialization and document settings, in the per document tab, there is a checkbox that says enable scheduling of multiple tickets. Now, as you can see, it's grayed out. I cannot change this now. It's a one-way change, so which is why be very careful before you change this in your live system. But so what this allows you to do is assign a technician or a number of technicians to a task, or to this particular service ticket. So I can go in, right-click, and go add row, or I could go through data and add row, or, you know, there's a keyboard shortcut, Control-I. So we go in there and we then pick the technician. Now, how do we get this list? Well, that's from the human resources. In there, you have your employee master data. And if you want those employees to show up, then they need to be the member of technicians team, which who are we looking for here? Let's say we're looking at Julie. So if we search for Julie. See that? She's got a role assigned of a technician, and this is the reason why she's appearing in the list, and so likewise Fred. So if you want to have people appearing in this list and assign calls to them, then you need to set that up. So we do that, and we are assigning, let's say, to Julie, and so you got a start date. So when is this person going to go do the work? Let's say it's tomorrow. What time are they going to go do it? Let's say from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Whoops, end date. So end date is tomorrow, and it's at 10 o'clock as well. And then once they've done, the work, they can come back in here and put in the actual duration. The other thing you need to, for the app to work, you need to put the address of where they need to attend into this field here. So you can either go and, if it's a customer's specific address, you can go in there and pick that address from a list, and then that just populates. So this becomes the address that will be shown on the mobile app for the service tech to attend. And there's this checkbox says display in calendar. So we've got a bit of a rudimentary way of looking at people's schedules and seeing, if they're available or not. So, I've assigned this person on the 8th, but if I go look at their calendar, I can see, yep, well, Julie, actually, let's look at tomorrow's calendar. I can see that she's got a couple of tasks already assigned. So the firmware upgrade she's going to do from 8 to 10, and then she's got to attend another job from 10 to 11 or 11:30 with another customer. So there's 2 different jobs already assigned, and so we might think that, well, actually, you know what, Julie is too busy. She's not going to be able to get to this second job based on, her needing to be at another client till 10 o'clock. So what you could then do is say, well, actually, I might just shift this paper jam job to Fred. And you can do that from the calendar. Now, this is not a, sophisticated planning system by any means, but it does give you, if you're dealing with a few service stacks and you want to just see what jobs assigned to them, you can go do that and say, this paper jam job, I'm going to get Fred to do. Right, so that's just moved the assignment from Julie to Fred, and on the service call itself, it automatically then changes the scheduling to Fred. It's it does that in the background without you needing to go in and change things around. So it's quite handy. And the way you sort of view multiple people's calendars in the standard Business One calendar is you go into the form settings, and then if you go into the user tab, you can go in and say, well, I want to see all these other people's calendars as well, and I want to color code them, right? So red for Fred and green for Julie. So right now I'm looking at a daily view. If I go look at a weekly view, then, well, I don't really see what the names of the individuals are, but what I do see is the color coding. So if there were overlaps on jobs for the same color, then at least there's some sort of an issue. But if you go back, or you can go into a weekly view and you can go into a monthly view and you can see all the different jobs that are going on. But if you wanted to move people's allocations around, you can either go into it, and then from there you can change the assignment, or you go into the day view, and then from here you can drag and move it around from person to person. Just one other thing to note, the allocation, the list of employees you can see in a group is only a maximum of 7. You can't see more than 7 technicians in the calendar at once. Okay, right, so back to our service call. So the last thing, so you got the attachments tab. So this is where you can put in any sort of relevant information. So here, if I've got on this particular job, I've got an actual, some sort of a data spec for that particular printer. So these attachments are also visible to the service stack when they're on the mobile app. Okay, so the last thing here is that you can print, and there's two different types of layouts you can print out of the service call. One is a technician's form, and the other is a service call. And they're basically, they're just two different types of layouts, and you can make them whatever you want to make them. So that's just a configuration or setup thing, but there are two different types of printouts you can do there. All right, and then so once you've sort of worked through the process, you've invoiced, you've created transactions, you've sort of progressed this through, and then eventually you'll close the service call once it's been completed. And as I said to you before, you can only close it if there is a solution or a resolution. Okay, now quickly just point out there's a bunch of reports in here in relation to service calls. You can go see, by many different criteria you can run it on, and you can see all the different service calls, what's happened, who's done them, when they were created, when they were closed, and so on. So go and explore these as well. They will show you what's going on. Here's one that's just sort of showing you the open queue. And also show you how many of them are overdue. You can go in and sort of say how often it should refresh. Okay, now I'm going to jump into the web client just to see how the interface looks like for the users if they are accessing the service-related features via the web client. So, as you guys may be aware, that the web client was introduced with version 10. It is available for both SQL and HANA, and there is a good amount of functionality that's there, though it doesn't do everything the standard SAP client does. But there is, in terms of the service, it's got most of the functionality apart from being able to view or maintain the service contracts. So let's quickly open up a service call and see what that looks like. And let's say I'll go into this one here, service call number 22. So I click on that. And so you'll see it's got all the information you have inside inside the standard SAP interface as well. So you can see if you wanted to create a new activity, you can do that. You can look at the customer information. You can look at solutions and resolutions. You can even drill into the solutions article and see more information about that. Okay. What else we can do? We can see up here, we can see the serial number of the item in question. We can also see, there's a service contract, so it's a valid item under warranty. We can look at the history of changes. We can also look at the scheduling of who's assigned to do it and when it's got to be done. And, you can also preview any documents that you want to print. You can view the relationship map in here. And what you can also do is go in and look at the equipment card and a bit more detail around that. So if I now look at the equipment card linked to the service call, and once I jump into the equipment card, I can see all the service calls that are open against it or have been have been placed against that particular serial item, I can see the service contract as well. So, you know, you've got all that information just in a web interface as opposed to in, you know, in the standard SAP client. Okay, and so if I come back to the menu, so you can see service calls, equipment cards, you can create service calls, you can create equipment cards, and you can also view the solution knowledge base and create solutions. Okay, so what I'll do now is let's go into the app itself and have a look at how that kind of works. So it's okay, so we've got the app. I'm logged in, and these are the service calls that I need to be attending to today. Right, so I've got 3 calls, one at 9, one at 11, one at 12:30, and one at 2, and I can see the various priorities. I can also go in and filter this, and you know, I could say, you know, show me just the high priority ones, or show me open and closed. You know, I've got all sorts of options here if I wanted to filter. I can. There is also some reporting that's available. This is more on the HANA side. So if you've got a HANA system, you can go look at some of the KPIs relating to relating to you as a user. I'm not. Maybe I've got some things not working. Hang on here. Oh, all right, we're having some issues. I'm not going to show you that today. But you can see some dashboards around that. But what you can do is, if these are the 4 calls that I need to attend to today, I can go into the mapping and I can go and see where they are, right? The blue dot on the top left is where I'm physically sitting. And then I can see all the different calls. They're also color coded. So there's a, you know, a dot against them that shows, you know, whether they're low, medium, or high. Green being low, orange being medium, and red being high. I can tap on one and I can see, okay, well, that's where I need to go first up today. So that kind of allows me to plan my day a little bit. So that's the first thing here. And the next thing is I can go into a particular call, and that kind of loads that call up. All right, and now I can see the exact information. I can see that this item's doesn't have a service contract. So right at the top, it's telling me that the service contract is invalid or void. I can see the address I need to go to. I can tap on the address, and again, it sort of pops open in the calendar. From here, I could even jump into, if I clicked on this button here, then it would open up my mapping application, and it would, you know, it would start sort of showing me the route to get to that particular site. It's still showing me where I'm physically sitting as well. So let's jump out of that view, and I can make a phone call. Right, so it's showing me the phone number. This will now jump into the standard phoning system and allow me to make a phone call. I can go and look at the more information area. So I can see, yeah, there's a hardware problem, it's electrical, and I need to go on site to look at this. And then if I tap on the 3 dots at the bottom, I can see some other information. So I can see any attachments. So if anyone sort of attached any additional information onto this call, those will be showing up here. I'm currently having some problems viewing these attachments, I won't tap into it, but if it's all set up, then you'll be able to get onto any PDFs or images and so on. I can even look at the service history of this item. I can see, there's been a history of service calls. This, maybe it's time to replace this printer. It's had a broken printer head. We've changed the cartridge and some paper jam as well. So maybe there's a problem there. What else can I do? I can take a photo. I've attended to the site. I'm physically here. Now I'm into the camera app and I could take a photo. And once I've taken the photo, I can use that photo, give it a name and save it, and it'll go into the attachments of tab of that particular service call. But I've arrived at the site, so the next thing I really should be doing is checking in, right? I've arrived here, I need to start working. I was supposed to arrive here at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's already 11:42, at least in Sydney, and I'm going to do a check-in. So yes, I do want to check in. So basically, the system will now pick my geolocation and record that to say, well, you're supposed to attend 601 Pacific Highway. The actual place you attended is going to get recorded against that particular service call. And the data can be found in the SAP database. So I'm checked in. I can even, if I go in here now, it will actually show me where I checked in. So you can see that the task was at this location, but it's showing me physically here, and I'm actually checked in at this particular location. So it's tracking it. If the service tech is checking in at the wrong place, you'll be able to see that fairly easily. Okay, so that's where we checked in. We can go in and put in more information about the ticket. I mean, the other thing we can also do here is we've assessed the printer and we need to create a sales order maybe, right? So I can go and do that. I can go and add a new sales order to this particular service call, so it'll pull up the customer's details. I can put in some additional remarks here if I needed to, but then I need to go in and select the items that are required to fix this. So maybe I need some additional memory. So I add that and say 2 of those, and I choose the item. And I can, choose the item and I can create the sales order. So this will create the sales order back in SAP, and it will also link it back to this particular service call. Oops. Sales order added. And I can see there was a previous sales order here, so it's linked a second one to it. So I can jump out of here. Now I can go in next. I can select the 2 sales orders. Okay, so it's picked all those information up. Actually, I didn't put in all the extra resolution information, but before we kind of go finalize things, you'd go in, enter the resolution information to change to upgrade memory. Memory done. So that's going back and updating the service call with those comments. Then I can go next. I can select the sales orders that that had been previously created, and then to finalize what we're doing here, we need to get a signature, right? And then the customer signs. Once again, I'm having some problems saving attachments, so I won't do this. But once you've got the signature, that basically that task is closed off. There's no further actions you can do on it. And in fact, then as I walk out of the place, I should really just go in and say I'm checking out. Right, and that completes the work that needed to be done. If I then go back into SAP, so that was call number 27. If you go into SAP, and if we look at, it's got a query here. Let's just, before we do that, let's look at service call number 27. So we'll see related documents. There's those 2 sales orders we had created. What we'll also see in the scheduling is, the information around what was there, but the actual geolocation details are not visible to the user. But I've done a query, so we can go in and say, show me the information on service call number 27. And one of the bits of information that's recorded is this here. So we actually checked in at 11:42. We checked into the address 395 Pacific Highway. So we were supposed to go to 601 Pacific Highway, St. Leonard's. That was the address we were supposed to go. But as per the phone's geo-tracking, it's saying that we logged in 395 Pacific Highway and postcode 2064, and that's the longitude, latitude. We checked in at 11:42. We checked out at 11:46. So that's the additional bit of information that you can capture. Back on the app itself, you can, once you've got the signature, you can do a printout if you had a wireless printer, or you could generate a PDF and email that to the customer as well with their signature.